வெல்கம் டு அவர் சேனல் பி சிம்பிள். இதுவரை நம்ம சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணாதவங்க சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க. மறக்காம பக்கத்தில் இருக்கிற பெல் ஐக்கானை கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க.
UNIT-2 poem. Confessions of a Born Spectator. Based on your understanding of the poem, answer the following questions in a sentence or two. A. Why does the poet feel glad that he does not play any game? The poet feels glad that he need not suffer like other athletes. He need not satisfy his ego. B. Do you think the narrator is heroic? Why? The narrator is not heroic because he never wants to be an athlete. He does not want to take any risk. C. The poet is satisfied just watching the heroic deeds of others. What could be the reason? The poet does not want to get hurt. His prudence does not allow his ego to come up to do some heroic deeds. So he is satisfied at watching the heroic deeds of others. D. The poet does not wish to exchange the position with the runners. Why? The poet does not wish to exchange the position with the runners because they attack each other to win the race. E. Are the athletes conscious of the feelings of others? Why do you say so? The athletes are not conscious of the feeling of others. The enthusiastic athletes play roughly without considering others' feelings. F. Why would the referee ask whether there was a doctor in the stands? What stands is he referring to here? In some games like boxing, one player may break the knee or cracks the wrist of the other, so the referee would ask some help from a doctor to give first aid. The gallery where the spectators are sitting is referred to as stands. G. Why does the poet prefer to buy tickets worth their weight in radium? Bring out the significance of the metal referred to here. Though the poet does not want to play, he appreciates the players. So he buys tickets of high denominations. The metal referred here is to mean the high value. Ogden Nash was an American poet well known for his light verse. With his unconventional rhyming schemes, he was declared the country's best-known producer of humorous poetry. In this poem, Nash talks about how people choose different sports in their lives or decide to become athletes. While admiring the talents of the athletes and sportsmen, the poet accepts that he is neither a sportsman nor an athlete. Children have different goals in life and wish to play various games. Each child has in mind something in particular, but the poet is happy that he is not one of the players. The poet admires the talents of all athletes and derives satisfaction from watching them, but does not wish to exchange his position with them. He also sometimes regrets that zealous athletes play rough games without caring for the feelings of their sporting rivals. He feels that good sense and caution win over ego. The poet wholeheartedly offers thanks for his modest physique. Ultimately, the poet is satisfied for not being an athlete. Simplified paragraph. In the poem Confessions of a Born Spectator, Ogden Nash talks about why he wants to be a spectator and not an athlete sportsman. The poet is a determined spectator. His own spirit is weak and shy. So he confesses that he is glad that he is neither a sportsman nor an athlete. He admires the talents of sportsmen and athletes. Children have different aims and wish to play various games. Each child has in mind something in particular, but the narrator is glad he is not one of the players. Though the narrator admires the talents of all athletes, he derives satisfaction from watching them, but does not wish to exchange places with them. He also sometimes regrets that zealous athletes play rough games without caring for the feelings of their sporting rivals. He feels that good sense and caution win over ego. The narrator wholeheartedly offers thanksgiving the modest physiques of athletes. Ultimately, the narrator is satisfied that he himself is not an athlete. With all my heart I do admire athletes who sweat for fun or hire. 1. Whom does the poet admire? The poet admires athletes. 2. For what reason do the athletes sweat? The athletes sweat for money or for pleasure. Well, ego it might be pleased enough, but zealous athletes play so rough. 1. What pleases the ego? Taking the place of a winning athlete pleases the ego. 2. Why are the athletes often rough during play? The athletes are often rough during play because everyone wants to win. When officialdom demands is there a doctor in the stands? 1. Why are doctors called from stands by the sponsors? Whenever an athlete is injured, a doctor is sent for by the officials. 2. Why does the poet make such an observation? The poet is moved by the injuries of the athletes. But the umpires and referees don't have such an emotional feeling. When snaps the knee and cracks the wrist. Identify and explain the use of the literary device in this line. Onomatopoeia is the literary device used in this line. When the athletes run for the medal, they get injured. The sounds come out of their parts of the body, such as snaps and cracks are mentioned here. Explain the following with reference to the context in about 50-60 words each. 1. I am just glad as glad can be that I am not them, that they are not me. Context. The above lines are taken from the poem Confessions of a Born Spectator, written by Ogden Nash. Explanation. In this poem the poet wants to be a mere spectator of sports. His own spirit is weak and shy. So he confesses that he is glad that he is neither a sportsman nor an athlete. He always wants to be a spectator, but not a participant. Comment. The poet is very firm in his stand. They do not ever in their dealings consider one another's feelings. Context. The above lines are from the poem Confessions of a Born Spectator, written by Ogden Nash. Explanation. The poet is a determined spectator. He knows that the athletes play rough. They do not care for their opponents. They are self-centered and over-enthusiastic, which make them indifferent to the feelings of others. Even the umpires and referees are not moved by the injury suffered by the athletes. The spectator finds himself unfit for such roughness and callousness. Comment: though the poet is emotionally disturbed, he takes firm decision of not taking part in any sports activity. 3 athletes: I'll drink to you or eat with you, or anything except compete with you. Context: the above lines are from the poem Confessions of a Born Spectator, written by Ogden Nash. Explanation: addressing athletes, he says that he will gladly drink for their health and also dine with them, but he will never compete with them in the playground. Comment: the poet is a determined spectator. Underline the alliterative words in the following lines. 1. For this most modest physiques. 2. They do not ever in their dealings find out the rhyme scheme of the given stanza. One infant grows up and becomes a jockey, another plays basketball or hockey, this one the prize ring hates to enter, that one becomes a tackle or center. Ab.
தேங்க்யூ ஃபார் வாட்சிங். இந்த வீடியோவை பற்றின உங்களோட கருத்துக்களை கமெண்டில் சொல்லுங்கள். இதுவரை நம்ம சேனலை சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணாதவங்க மறக்காமல் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்கள், லைக் பண்ணுங்கள், ஷேர் பண்ணுங்கள்.